Well, it's better late than never, I guess. What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am going to be bringing you a Majespecter deck profile updated post-ban list with, of course, Kirin. Now, I did a poll across YouTube and Twitter, and Majespecter was the winner, so I will be bringing the other two decks that were in the poll later on, but this is the one that won to be first, so we are definitely going to go ahead and talk about it, because after 8 long years, Kirin is finally back from the ban list. So not only are we going to be showing you this deck profile, but we do also have a combo at the end, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So to kick things off with the main deck, we of course have our 3 copies of Majespecter Raccoon Bunbuku. This is 1 card combo because it's able to search some of the newer cards, but we'll go over that as we get there. We also have 3 copies of the Crow Yada. Now this previously was a pretty bad card because there were no good Majespecter spells that you were able to search off of it, but now it is a 1 card combo thanks to some of the newer support that we've gotten. We have 3 copies of our Porcupine Yamarashi. This card is incredible because not only are you able to special summon it as long as you control a Majespecter, but it also allows you to recur your spells by setting them back from your graveyard. Most important part is obviously the special summon because it allows you to extend further, but the recursion isn't half bad either. We have our 1 copy of Ogama and our 1 copy of QB. You don't really need more than this because you are always going to be summoning them from the deck, whether it's with the new spell or the new Exceed monster. So we will, again, you'll see it in the combo. And then finishing off the Majespecter count, we have our Kirin. The boy is finally back. Now, honestly, I'm surprised we didn't get it on the list before this most recent one, because I figured that they would want to release it for the Majespecter support, especially since the Majespecter support in question is the first time ever that Majespecter has been able to actually summon Kirin consistently. Because it's a level 6, it's outside of its scale range, so this card was actually banned because of Metal Foes, funny enough. But yeah, so better late than never, like I said in the intro, we have our boy Kirin back, and it's really, really strong, but not as strong as you might think for a card that spent 8 years on the ban list. We do have 3 copies of Majesty Pegasus, the Draco Slayer. Now, this card is an honorary Majespecter because it is always treated as a Majespecter, meaning you can actually search it off of something like your Bunbuku or summon it from the deck with other Majespecter-specific cards. Well, technically it's a wind spellcaster, so it fits with all those anyway. But we are playing a relatively small Draco Slayer package because we also do have the 1 Dynamite Power Load. Now, this card is really just kind of for a specific combo, which is going to be the combo that I show you guys at the end, but it's really, really strong, plus it's just a high scale as well. That's actually it for the Pendulum monsters. We do have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir, and the reason that we play this is somewhat twofold. Obviously, it's just an incredible card to either slap onto your end board if you're going first, or a good way to break opposing boards going second, but because the Majesty Pegasus requires a discard, I really like playing Fenrir in any deck that needs a discard engine, because you can special summon the Fenrir, search another copy of Fenrir, and then you essentially just get a free discard, meaning that you're not losing out on any form of interruptions or any other advantage that you might have in your hand. Next, all we have is some hand traps. Of course, we have our 3 copies of Ash Blossom, most generic hand trap in the game. We do have 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Now, I'm opting to play 3 copies of Droll instead of Nibiru because Nibiru is almost kind of falling off. So if you've watched any of my videos recently, you know that the Snake Eye decks, both the Fire King and the Pure and whatever other variant you might have, are very good at either playing around or through Nibiru. So Nibiru just kind of doesn't really do as much as you want it to in that matchup, but especially against Tenpai Dragon as well, because their field spell makes them unaffected during the main phase, and Nibiru has to be during the main phase. Not to mention, even without the field spell, chances are they're not summoning more than 5 times in the main phase, because the majority of their summoning actually happens in the battle phase. Nibiru just kind of isn't really all that good right now. Now, Droll and Lockbird, kind of almost equally not as good, because Snake Eye can still play through it, and so can Tenpai if they're able to chain the copy of Kaiman from their hand, but I think that it might just be a little bit more impactful than Nibiru in the upcoming format. Next up, we still have our 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Now again, in my most recent videos, I've been telling you guys that Effect Negation is the best way to interrupt your opponent, especially because a lot of the cards have more than one effect these days, so being able to essentially kill 2 for 1 is really, really incredible. And I will just kind of spoil it, we are not playing Infinite Impermanence in this build, because we run out of back row room relatively quickly, especially because the Pendulum Scales take up the right and leftmost zones. So we just don't really have room for the Imperm, but we don't want to lose out on the Effect Negation, which is why we're sticking with the Veiler. And we do have our 1 copy of Nibiru. This is primarily a cross-out target. Now, this deck does absolutely fold to Nibiru. It is the only hand trap that really outright kills the deck, because it doesn't have a good way to play around it. We can play around a lot of the other hand traps, but I wanted to make sure that we were still able to play through a Nibiru if it happens, which is why we're running the cross-out engine. That's going to be it for the monsters. Onto the spells. We have our 3 copies of Majespecter Wind. This is the new card that Yada is going to search to allow you to 1-card combo off of it. And then we have our 1 copy of Majespecter Cyclone. Now, this is interesting, and I'll talk about it when we get a little bit more to the traps. I'm opting to play this over Tornado because it is resettable off of something like your Yamarashi. So being able to use it multiple times versus something like the Tornado might be a little bit more impactful because you are banishing the card instead of destroying it. But in a grind game, this is the better card in my opinion. Next, we have our 2 field spells with the Majesty's Pegasus and the Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Now, a lot of people are playing Necro Valley, and that is definitely something that I would side deck when I'm playing this deck, but for the main deck, I think that the Majesty's Pegasus is a little bit more important. Sometimes you just really need a way to tribute one of your Majespecters because maybe you really need to resolve something like your Ryu, the new Exceed that came out. So I think that this is just a little bit more important in a Game 1 scenario, and then of course Secret Village is Secret Village. You're going to be locking out your opponent from playing, so not really much to be said there. For consistency, we have our 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Now, the extra deck is relatively tight, so sometimes it's hard to find 6 that you can actually go ahead and banish off of this, but usually you only need to do 3 anyway, because the deck is consistent enough that off the top 3 cards, you'll probably see something that you need. But you just still need a little bit of extra consistency push. And of course, like I mentioned, we have our 3 copies of Crossout Designator, and that is going to be it for the spells. Finishing off the main deck, we have our 1 trap in Majespecter Tempest. This is essentially a Solemn Strike for Majespecters, specifically tributing a Wind Spellcaster. That's 42 cards, let's show you the extra. For the extra deck, we are going to start off with 1 copy of the Dinoster Power. This is an incredible card because not only does it protect your pendulums from being destroyed by battle or card effect, but it also allows you to special summon a Draco Slayer from the graveyard, which is absolutely crucial to the combo that I'm going to be showing you guys. Then we have our 2 copies of Majespecter Ryu. Now, this is a card that you could potentially bump to 3 because the turn 1 combo does usually use 2 of them. I can't say usually, it depends on which combo you go for, but a lot of the 1-card combos or 2-card combos that you're going to be making use 2 of them throughout the combo, so bumping it up to 3 might be good, but I haven't really found a niche use for it yet. We have another couple of rank 4s. We have our Abyss Dweller, our Magister Paladin, and our Tornado Dragon. Now, you can actually end on either of these level 4s. You're going to make the Magister for your combo, but the Tornado Dragon was just kind of a call for if you're up against something like Labyrinth, especially since Labyrinth has been doing well at the last couple of YCSs. Having something that you can make as your rank 4 when Abyss Dweller might not necessarily be the better option is something that I really think has value. Next up, we have the 1 copy of Typhon. I needed a 15th card, and this is pretty much the default, so yeah. Then onto the links, we have our 2 copies of Orthrus Nue. This card is absolutely incredible, but it is a hand trap magnet. Now, for those of you that weren't aware, all of the Majespecter monsters cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, meaning that cards like Imperm and Effect Veiler are relatively useless against them. However, this does not have that stipulation, so if your opponent has an Imperm or a Veiler, they are likely going to use it on this, so just be wary that the Nue is one of your most crucial choke points. Then we have our copy of Beyond the Pendulum. Now, Beyond the Pendulum is somewhat better than Nue because it doesn't lock you into Majespecters and Draco Slayers like the Nue does, but it is dependent on you having a 2-card combo instead of a 1-card combo. The Nue allows you to function off of just a single card. The Beyond the Pendulum requires that you have a little bit more gas in your hand. We have our one copy of IP Masquerena and our copy of Little Knight. These are just relatively self-explanatory. Every deck is playing them. We only have one Link 3, that is going to be the Exceed the Pendulum. This is an incredibly important card for the combo, as well as just really good pendulum support in general. And finishing off the extra deck, we have our one copy of Appaloosa and our one copy of Access Code. Appaloosa is part of the end board that I'm going to be showing you guys, and it's just really, really strong. Obviously, Access Code is able to push for game, and it's really, really easy to make, especially with the way that Exceed the Pendulum functions, so you're able to just kind of crap it out onto the board and go for game relatively easily. But that's going to be the deck. Let's show you guys the combo. And just a quick reminder before we actually get into the combo that the popular Monster Metal Field Center is available for purchase on my website, insanetcg.com. The link will be in the description down below. It has incredible art. It is very solid metal, really, really good quality. Make sure you guys get yours now before they're out. With the deck profile out of the way, let's show you guys that promised combo tutorial. Now, I am going to be showing you a 2.5 card combo, and I do feel the need to preface this that this half card can be literally anything. I am going to show you personally with the Fenrir because this is the better variant, because all you really need is a discard for the Pegasus. So what we're going to do is be able to special summon our Fenrir and search another copy of Fenrir, acting as our discard. If you don't open the Fenrir, whatever this card is, you're just going to discard it off the Majesty. All it changes is that your end board does not have a Fenrir, and the end board is still relatively, I mean not relatively, but amazingly good without the Fenrir. So we'll go back over that once we get to it in the combo. I just wanted to preface it that way you guys know exactly what we're doing. So we are going to start it off, obviously, by special summoning our Fenrir because we have no monsters on our side of the field. And this we can either wait to search if we wanted to try to play around something like Droll, but I'm just going to show you guys the combo. So we're going to go ahead and use its effect to search another copy of itself. Now that we've got that out of the way, we can start off with our Majespecter lines. We can go ahead and summon out the Bunbuku, which is going to allow us to activate its effect, searching us our copy of Porcupine Yamarashi. Now that we have the Porcupine, we can use its effect to summon itself out because we control a Majespecter, and here's actually where we're going to go into some Beyond the Pendulum lines. Now, these go on top of the extra deck, but just to make life easier, since I've stacked it to show you guys the combo, we're going to set these off to the side, but you're going to go ahead and link those off into the copy of Beyond the Pendulum, activating the Beyond the Pendulum effect, which is then going to allow you to add any of your high scales. Now, I usually go for the Yada because after this combo, we're really not going to need Yada ever again. So thinning the deck out of our Yadas is relatively strong. So we're going to go ahead and activate our Pendulum Scales now, and we can perform our Pendulum Summon. We're going to go ahead and summon out the Bunbuku and the Porcupine, and now that we've done our Pendulum Summon, our scales are no longer locked, because don't forget that the Beyond the Pendulum says that your Pendulum effects are negated until you've performed your Pendulum Summon. So now we're going to go ahead and use the effect of Majesty Pegasus. This is going to allow us to add the Dynamite, and then optionally destroy a card in our Pendulum Scale. We do want to do it, so we are going to go ahead and destroy the Yada, and that opens up the other scale for our Dynamite. We're going to go ahead and play the Dynamite, activating its effect, which will allow us to summon out our copy of Majesty, and now that Majesty has been special summoned, we can activate its effect. This is going to allow us to add our Majesty Pegasus and then discard a card. So I'm going to go back over it now. If we didn't open the Fenrir, all that's going to change is that this is an open zone on your board, and we discard whatever that third card was. But again, I just want to show you guys the most optimal version of this. So now that we have the Majesty's Pegasus, we can go ahead and overlay the Yamarashi and the Majesty. This is going to go into our first copy of Draco Ryu. Now, Draco Ryu is really good because anytime a card is tributed, you can go ahead and summon out a Majespecter from deck, or more specifically, a Wind Spellcaster, which is exactly what we're going to do, because we're going to play the Majesty's Pegasus and use its effect to tribute off our Bunbuku. This is going to allow us to summon a copy of Ogama. Now, there is a very important thing to note here. You have to make the effect of Ryu Chainlink 1, because all of the Majespecter effects are when effects, meaning that they can miss timing if they are summoned as Chainlink 2 or higher. So if we were to go 1-2, whatever we summon off the Draco will not be able to activate its effect, so we want to avoid that. Plus, the Ogama can't be Ash Blossomed or Effect Veilered or Impermed, so by being able to prevent something like this from being Ash Blossomed, we're just going to chain block it anyway. So Chainlink 1 Ryu, Chainlink 2 Ogama. Ryu has to detach for cost, as all things do. So the Ogama is going to go ahead and resolve, and this is going to set our copy of Majespecter Cyclone. Now, if you are playing something like the Tornado, you can set the Tornado here, but again, I'm opting for the Cyclone because of its recurability. Then the Draco will resolve, and this is of course going to summon out our copy of Yata. And that's why it's important to make that chain 1, because now in a new chain, the Yata will be able to activate, and that is going to search us for our copy of Majespecter Wind. Wind is really important because what we're going to do now is activate it, tributing off either the Yata or the Ogama. It does not matter which one, but this will allow us to summon the QB from our deck. Now here, it doesn't really matter what order we do this in, because nothing that we're summoning is going to be able to miss timing on this one. So chain these however you want, but for example's sake, we're just going to go chain 1, chain 2. QB is going to go ahead and search us for our copy of Tempest, which we'll remember to set later. And then of course the Ryu is going to go ahead and detach. This is going to summon out another copy of Majesty. Now the reason Majesty is important is because it is a Draco Slayer monster, which we need for the combo, because our next move is to use the Majesty and the Ryu, and since Ryu is a pendulum monster, it will go ahead and go over to the top of the extra deck. This is going to summon out our copy of Dinoster. Now, Dinoster is really good because now not only is our stuff protected, but we're able to summon a Draco Slayer from the graveyard. And would you look at that, because we detached it off of the Ryu, we have a Majesty in graveyard, so we're going to use the effect to summon it out. Now, this can't be used for a fusion summon. Doesn't matter, we're not going to fusion summon anymore. But what we will do here is we will go ahead and overlay them into a copy of Magister Paladin. Now, you have to declare that you are activating the end phase effect on the summon of this card. If you don't declare that you're doing it, you didn't technically activate it, and you're not going to be able to search. So declare the effect to search, and then what we can do is actually go ahead and use its on-field effect, detaching a card. This is going to allow us to summon a Draco Slayer from our extra deck. We do have an open linked zone, so we can go ahead and summon that there, albeit this is now no longer able to be used for an Exceed summon. That doesn't matter because our next move, we're going to go ahead and take it with the Beyond the Pendulum. We're going to link those off into our copy of Exceed the Pendulum and activate Exceed the Pendulum's on summon effect, adding the Majesty back to our hand, which is why it's important that we use it there, because we want to make sure that we have a low scale. Because of Exceed's other effect being able to summon one back between the scales, we are going to go ahead and activate the Majesty Pegasus using the Exceed the Pendulum effect. We can go ahead and resummon out our Yamarashi, because it's a level 4, which is between the 2 and the 6 pendulum scale. Yamarashi's effect on summon is going to allow us to reset our copy of Majespecter Wind to our side of the field, and then our next move is going to use the Exceed and the Magister, and this is going to go into a 2-material Appaloosa. So let's go ahead and just showcase that with a dice. So now the last thing that we can do is make any rank 4 of our choosing. For the sake of being able to still use our Majespecter spell and traps, the best rank 4 for us to make is actually going to be the second Ryu. But you don't technically have to do this, and I'll explain why, because we're going to showcase everything that happens on the opponent's turn after this. But you can make an Abyss Dweller, you can make Tornado Dragon, it does not matter. We're going to go ahead and set our copy of Tempest. We're just going to flip all of these face up to showcase you guys what we have, and then we'll proceed to end phase. Because we are now in the end phase, we can go ahead and activate, or not activate, but resolve the effect of Magister Paladin. This is going to allow us to add a copy of Bunbuku to our hand, and then it passes to our opponent. Now, the reason you don't need the Draco is because you'll be able to use all of your stuff because you have the Wind. In your opponent's draw phase, you're going to go ahead and use the Wind. This is going to summon the Bunbuku, and then that of course activates Bunbuku's effect to go ahead and add your Yamarashi. So now you have 2 names, because this is a quick effect to summon, so you can summon it on your opponent's turn. You have 2 names to be able to use your 2 spell and traps with, meaning that the Ryu is not necessary, so you can make an Abyss Dweller if it just flat out kills the matchup you're in. But the reason that we made the Ryu here is because I want to show you guys how we can abuse it to summon our boy Kirin. Because you might be asking, Kirin came back, we didn't even summon it. What's up with that? Well, we're going to show you. So again, the Wind summons the Bunbuku on your opponent's turn. Bunbuku activates its effect, adding the Yamarashi, and then now we are good to go. In the opponent's main phase, what we want to try and do first before we actually use the Yamarashi is we want to try to use the Cyclone. So let's say we use the Cyclone. We're going to go ahead and tribute off the Bunbuku. This is going to pop a card our opponent controls. On resolution, a card was tributed. Ryu can go ahead and activate, and this will allow us to summon our boy Kirin from the deck. On resolution, we'll go ahead and we'll use the Yamarashi, and the reason we wanted to wait to do that is because now Yamarashi has the option of setting either your Wind or your Cyclone. Now, if you don't necessarily care about recurring the Cyclone, you can just do it immediately and reset your Wind. Wind will essentially give you guaranteed follow-up, but I like having the option. So now what we still have available to us are 2 of the Appaloosa negates. We have a Bounce, we still have our Tempest, which is a essentially Solemn Strike. We've already destroyed a monster, so we're going to be able to 2 negates, a Destruction, a Solemn Strike. Since we started with the Fenrir, we have an option to banish with Fenrir as well, but again, that might not necessarily be what you have, so we won't necessarily count that. But I think that this is a ridiculous combo for Majespecters in 2024, and again, summoning Kirin for the first time in 8 years just feels heavenly. And there you guys have it, that is going to be my Majespecter updated post-ban list with Kirin deck profile and combo tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, and as always, do not forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard. Using code INSANE18 or my link in the description down below, you can get 5% off their amazing product, and it will also help support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.